Hi everyone, it's Leslie from HungryHeffyCrafts, and today I have a Valentine's card, or at least a love card, and it's using distress inks, and I am also using some masking on this card today. I'm going to start by taping a piece of distress watercolor cardstock onto my craft mat, and then I'm using washi tape for that, and I'm also going to use washi tape to secure the mask on top. And this mask is from Crafter's Workshop. It's called Mini Sunburst, and I chose this mask because, well, I was inspired by a rub-on that was a circular rub-on, and you'll see a little bit later in the video how I used the Sunburst style or design to incorporate the rub-on. Now I thought that for Valentine's Day, or as this was a love themed card, I would use some reds and pinks, and for the center of my sunburst I'm going to be using some reds and blending that out into some more pink colors. So in the middle I'm using Candied Apple. That's one of the most recent distress inks that was released at the end of 2015, and blending into that some Festive Berries, which is a bit more of a reddy pinky tone, and then at the end some Picked Raspberry, which is a more vibrant pink color. And I'm going back and forth with my blending tool to make sure that they're nice and blended out, and the transition between the colors is pretty much seamless. So once I'm happy with the masking, I'm going to remove the mask and give it a quick wipe down with a baby wipe. I will actually wash it under the sink once I'm finished, but I decided I didn't quite like the you can see the corners, the white corners, and I thought I'd bring in some pink colors. I'm using a lighter pink. This is Spun Sugar, just to take away that stark white contrast in the corners and along the edges. So I'm using the Spun Sugar to blend away some of the white tones, and then I'll come back in with a little Picked Raspberry along the edges, and it just softens up the whole card, I think. Makes it pretty. Now I'm finished with the inking. I'm going to spritz the project, a little spritz with my water sprayer, and then sprinkling some in my hand and tossing that onto the card. Because this is distress ink, it reactivates with water. So I'll leave that for a few seconds, about 30 seconds, and then pick up with a clean paper towel. And you can see it gives a nice distress spattered look, and I think it makes it look really soft and romantic. Before the next step, I want to make sure the project is nice and dry, because I'm going to be adding some embossing ink. I've placed my mask back on top, and I'm also going to use a blending tool to add some embossing ink to the project. I've used a circle die to cut a circle out of scratch cardstock to cover up the circle in the middle, because I don't want any ink on that area. But I'm adding a little touch of the embossing ink all the way around the outside of that circle. So now I can add my embossing powder. I'm not using a colour embossing powder today. I'm using one which is called hologram or holographic embossing powder. It is a clear powder with some glitter flecks running through it, and it gives a lovely sparkle to the finished project. I'm going to sprinkle this over the top and shake off the excess onto a scratch piece of paper that I have here, all the way around. You won't really be able to see this very much at the moment. You can see a little bit the crystals, but when I heat it up you'll be able to see a lot better. So let's give this a blast with the heat tool, and I'll shine in the light now so that you can see some of the sparkles on the card. When I got to this stage I realized that the circle wasn't quite in the center of the card. So I'm just using a ruler to mark the same distance on either side of that center point, and then I can use my paper trimmer to trim either side of the little sunburst, And I'm using my Fiskars paper trimmer for this, and it has a wire guide, so I know exactly where it's going to cut. Now this card was inspired by a rub-on, and it's a circular rub-on, and I'm going to mount this inked panel on top of the rub-on, but I want to create a little aperture, a little hole in my card. So I'm using a stitched circle die from Simon Says Stamp to cut out this middle piece here. And then my inked panel is going to go on top of a card blank along here. But I wanted to add a little bit more interest to the top of the card. So along the edge of the pink panel, the top and the bottom, I'm going to use this stitch border die. Instead of little stitch marks, it's actually like little dots, but it gives a really nice pretty texture to the card. Here's the rub-ons that I was talking about. It is from a Dear Lizzie collection, and it's this one here, and it says, "I'll be yours and you'll be mine," and I thought it'd be really pretty for Valentine's Day. So I'm going to add this to the card now, and to make sure I get the placement of the rub-on just right, I'm going to take a pencil and trace around that inside aperture. And then I can make sure that the rub-on is exactly where I want it to be. To rub this down, I'm going to grab my bone folder here and give it a good rub. So now that my rub-on is in place, I can take an eraser and remove that pencil line because we don't want any pencil showing through, and I'll get rid of any rubbings using a dry paintbrush. Now to assemble the card, I'm along the top and the bottom edge of the card, I have cut some thin strips of blue cardstock, and it matches the blue in the rub-on. So I'm adding these on first of all, and they do overhang the edge a little, but once I have them secured down, I can flip the project and trim it off using my scissors. To make sure it's nice and neat. For the actual pink panel, I'm actually going to raise that up using some foam tape. So I'm adding some foam tape all along the top and the bottom edge, and then a few other pieces as well, just to make sure it's nice and secure, especially when going through the post, because if you don't have enough tape on there, it can smoosh down a little. So there's the card pretty much done. I've added a couple of enamel dots and also some red gems just to bring some more of that red color in. And as I tilt it in the light, you can see how beautifully it sparkles. It's so pretty. Thanks for watching today, and I hope that you will come back for some more videos over at Hungry Heffy Crafts. Have a great day and happy crafting!